Hey, Money Masters. Welcome to the Wealth Seed. This is episode number 32. We were on break last week because I was vacationing and had an amazing time with some wonderful sister friends of mine. We were celebrating 30 years of sisterhood and friendship and all of that. And so we had a great time. And now I'm back. We're here, episode 32. Today, we're going to be talking about 7 myths regarding gold and silver, right? 7 myths regarding gold and silver. So, as usual, before we get into that, we talk about our crazy money story, then we get into our topic, and then we talk about some upcoming happenings. So, we're going to do just that. Take a moment, if you will, to share this broadcast out, or if you're watching on YouTube, like it and I guess you can share it there too and, do a subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, right? Take a moment to do that. Listen, what we're talking about today, everyone, I would say everyone, but not everyone, right, is going to want to hear about it or anything like that. But you all know that I've talked about gold and silver before and how it's always great to have gold and silver in your portfolio. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. All right, before we get to that, let's talk about our crazy money story for this episode. So, this story really isn't like crazy in the way that we typically do crazy money story because usually it's something that's kind of pretty outlandish, right? But this is something that occurred to a lot of people in 2022, particularly people who were close to retirement. And so I'm sure that there may be some of you out there who may be able to relate, or someone who can relate to this, right? So there was a couple who recently retired. Okay. And in 2022, they lost about 100,000 from their portfolio, right? And as they spoke with their advisor about it, the advisor then said, "Hey, look, you might lose another 100,000 in 2023." They wanted to know, like, is this crazy? Do we have the right advisor? That kind of thing. So let me give you a little bit more context to the story. The husband retired in 2016. The wife retired in 2018. At that time, they had a pretty nice little nest egg saved up. And so what they did was they took a portion of that savings and they had their financial advisor to take over those accounts and to help them grow, right? Because just because you retire doesn't mean that you no longer are trying to grow your money. There is still some portion of your money that you want to grow, while you have another portion of your money that you are, protecting because you are actually living off that money, right? So by January of 2022, they had about $500,000 saved. They hadn't pulled any of that money out, and I'm talking about the money that they gave to the financial person to uh, so that that person can help them grow it. So it grew to 500,000. Now they got to later in the year, around October of 2022. Okay. And we know, especially that latter part of the year, the stock market was, it was very volatile. And there were some huge losses. So they noticed in their 401k that they had lost about 100,000 since the end of 2021. Okay. So what they did was they contacted their investment firm, set up a meeting with them because they wanted to know why they had lost nearly 25%. Okay, so you can already tell, right, that this is a couple that um, probably wasn't too savvy about what was going on in the market during 2022, because by the time October hit, they're asking why. So if they're asking why, that means they really weren't paying attention to the news and what was going on in the market, which which happens to many people in who have 401ks, right? Because typically what happens is we invest in a 401k, and unfortunately, we kind of forget about it, right? Because we think it's a set and forget, and it's not. Okay. So this is likely what happened to this couple. So now they're calling to figure out why their portfolio had this big loss, 25%. Okay. And the other reason they were calling is because they thought that since the advisor, that investment company, had control of those investments, that they would be closely monitored, and the advisor would then do things to make sure that they wouldn't lose as much. So here's two things that I want to say right here. Number one, when you are meeting with your financial advisor, before you invest, right? It's important that you communicate very clearly what your goals are. Um, if you don't know personally what your goals are for the money that you're investing, then I would say you may want to hold off investing until the goals are set. Now you can discuss, some goals that you've brainstormed with your advisor so that they can give you some options, on strategies and things. But what you don't want to do is just go in and say, "Hey, I got this money, invest it for me," and you have really no idea what you want to do with that money. Okay. Second thing is that even though, and again, this is a conversation with the advisor, you really have to make sure you understand what they are there to do. Are they the type of advisor that will sit and that monitors your account regularly, monthly, weekly, I don't know, and makes movements in your investments based on what they see on a regular basis? Or are they an advisor who is just simply investing the money on your behalf, not necessarily checking it all that often? They are not necessarily taking the lead on any movements because it's expected that you are monitoring and you are taking the lead, or that you would call, and inquire and things of that nature. So you got to be very, very mindful of that. So two things that this couple did not do. Okay. All right. So now they're calling the advisor and wanting to know why they lost this 25%. And the advisor says to them, well, you could lose another 100,000 in 2023, because as 2023 started out, the market was still very volatile, right? Still kind of up and down. And so of course, who wants to hear that? Well, hey, you can lose another 100,000. Okay. So I have an issue. I had an issue with the advisor because here's the thing. I already mentioned the two issues that I had with the couple. Okay. They were not clear about their goals and they did like a set and forget. Don't do that. Okay. The issue I have with the advisor is that you were taking money to invest from a couple who was in retirement. Okay. So in 2022, as the market started to become volatile, this advisor, now again, based on, what their commitment is to you as a client and what they actually do for you on a day-to-day basis, but you would think that, okay, the advisor would be like, this couple is in retirement. Okay. Whether the couple's near retirement or in retirement, the market is volatile. We need to take a good portion of this money and protect it. Okay. But that's not what this advisor did. And again, don't really know if that was really what was in the scope of their duties. Okay. So now the couple is asking, hey, should we swallow our losses, go to another investment company? Do they stick it out with the one that they have? And again, that's kind of a tough question because particularly what happened in 2022, it was what we call systemic. So it didn't matter if you was with one company or another, like those, you experienced some loss. But what does matter is the responsiveness of your advisor. Are they paying attention to where you are and what you need, and the strategy that has been laid out for you all. Those are some things that, again, when you're picking an advisor, you need to be very, very clear about what exactly are they doing on your behalf. A lot of them, you give them the money, they invest it, they not really paying a close attention to it like that, right? Particularly if they have a lot of clients on their list. Um, and also, if, and I, unfortunately, I hate to say this, if your investment is not a significant amount, we talk about millions, they're probably not paying a whole lot of attention to it. So these are some things that you need to know, right? Really, the advisor, when this couple called, should have said like, hey, we're sorry, that your portfolio has, taken this hit, um but here's how we need to move forward, which doesn't really sound like, based on what I read, that this advisor did. They just simply said, hey, look like, you could stand to lose another 100,000 in 2023. So it seems like, according to what I read, that the advisor really wasn't forthcoming with some strategies to help protect what was left, protect, and maybe still kind of grow what was left. Okay. So anyway, be very mindful when you're talking to these advisors. If you're in retirement, you're near retirement, your strategy is going to be different than someone who has 7 to 10 years or more in the market. And I've done, some podcasts before and posts and things that talk about that. Hey, if you've got 7 or 10 years, 7 to 10 years or more before you retire, then you have time, your portfolio has time to recover. But if you're retired, or if you are getting ready to retire in under 5 years or so, you want to be doing some things to take a good portion of that money and protect it. So, anywho, that was a story. Like I said, not necessarily like this, outlandish story, but I did want to address it, because I know that there are people out there who've experienced that hit in their 401ks and various other investments. And so, if that's you and you've not yet done anything, with the money that's in there, and again, you're in retirement or very near retirement, protection strategies are what you need. Okay. Protection strategies are what you need. All right. So let's get into our topic for today, which is 7 myths about gold and silver. Now, again, you've heard me rant and rave about gold and silver. I am a fan, but I do want to address some myths that are out there, especially if you're new to investing in gold and silver. There's a lot of talk out there. And so it's like, okay, what should I listen to? What shouldn't I listen to? Um, so I want to clear up some things, right, by visiting some of these myths. So, myth number one: people sometimes are out there teaching and saying that gold and stocks are like inversely correlated. What does that mean? If the price of stocks are up, then the price of gold is down. If the price of gold is up, then the price of stocks are down. And this is not true, and probably one of the biggest myths that are out there. Okay. Um, the truth is that gold, when stocks sell off pretty dramatically, like what we had happen in 2022, gold typically tends to go up, but that's because people are moving their monies out of there and putting it into protection mode. But that does not mean that there is a direct correlation. Just because stock prices are down doesn't necessarily mean that the price of gold is going up. Okay. There are some examples throughout history where you can see stocks were up and gold was also up. Okay, so there wasn't this inverse correlation that happened in 1993. It happened again in 2000. This time stocks were down and gold was also down. Okay, so to say that it has an inverse correlation is not correct. Okay, that is a myth. Can gold hedge against sudden market shocks like we had last year, or sharp inflation like we experienced at the end of last year going into this year? Yes, it can. It can be a hedge, but that does not mean that it's automatically inverse to what's going on in the stock market. Okay. All right. Myth number two. Myth number two is that gold goes up when inflation goes up. And so, once again, it has not been proven without shadow of a doubt that every time inflation rises that the cost of gold goes up. Can it happen? Yeah, it can happen, but it has also happened that where inflation has risen and the gold actually loses some of its value, right? And so that happened in the 80s. Okay, inflation went up about 64%, and gold actually lost about a third of its value during that time. Okay, so again, like I mentioned before, gold can and has historically protected against sharp inflation, but sometimes over the long term, it may not necessarily be best protection of inflation, right? We're going to talk about but I'm going to talk about why it's something you should have in your portfolio at all times after we get done with these myths. All right, myth number 3. Okay. Some people are out there teaching, hey Jay, good to see you. Some people are out there teaching that gold is a very solid long-term investment. And this is not always the case either, right? Um, or they'll tell you that gold is a better investment than stocks or bonds. So, no, I cannot sit here and say that it's necessarily a better investment than stocks or bonds overall. Why? Because what that causes people to do is say, oh, to choose between the two, right? Okay, if if gold is better, then I'm going to pull all my money out of stocks and bonds and put it in gold, right? Or if stocks or bonds are better, then I'm going to pull all my money out of gold and put it in stocks and bonds. No, we cannot say that. Each of them have their their pros and cons. Each of them go up and down. Each of them, so there is we cannot definitively say that it is a solid long-term investment. What we can say is that gold and silver hold their value. That's what we can say, right? But we can't say that over the long term that it outperforms stocks or bonds. Okay, we cannot definitively say that. In fact, I mean, you're going to see that there are times, many times, where stocks and bonds beat out gold and silver. Okay, but we are not investing in gold and silver simply because it beats out stock, or because we're saying it beats out stock. That's not why we're investing in gold and silver. We'll talk about why we're investing in gold and silver soon. Let me get through the rest of these myths. Okay. All right. So number 4, this one is about silver. In fact, the rest of these I think will be about silver. Well, and the final one will be about them both. So some people feel like silver, because the cost of silver is lower, that that silver may be more scarce than gold, or gold might be more scarce. And really the pricing of the two has nothing to do with scarcity. It really has to do with supply and demand. That's what that has to be. And then even when you get into talking about supply and demand, because you might say, well, Lexi, is this a supply and demand based on scarcity? Maybe sometimes, and sometimes not, right? Sometimes the supplier may put something out there to make people perceive that there's something is scarce, but it's not necessarily scarce. Okay. And so because we know if something is scarce, you can charge more for it. Okay. So supply and demand play an important role in pricing, especially in gold and silver. But they are not the only factors when it comes to the relation of gold and silver prices. It's not supply and demand only that drives the price of silver and gold. Okay. Um, if you get on and look right now, you're going to find that gold is way more, the price is way more up than silver. However, um, so if we were talking about the supply and demand thing, you would think that, oh, well, then there's much more silver in the world than there is gold. But in actuality, there's actually more gold than there is silver. Okay. All right. Next myth. I believe this is number 5. Um, some people think that silver is hard to buy. It seems like gold is everywhere and silver is not. And that's not true either. Okay. Silver is as easy to get a hold of as gold is. Okay. Again, this ties into the last one that I did, where people think, oh, silver is more scarce. It's not. Okay. It's not. It is just as easy to buy silver as it is to buy gold. Okay. I believe this is number 6. All right. Now there are those out there that are saying, hey, you can put all your silver and your gold into an IRA. Now, granted, in an IRA, if you do not know what that is an individual retirement account. Now, granted, there are IRAs in which you can put silver and gold in, but not any kind of silver or any kind of gold can go into an IRA. So when you are looking at if that's something that you're interested in, is actually putting your gold and silver into an IRA, then you want to make sure that the gold and silver that you're purchasing, that it is IRA approved. Okay. Because some of them are not IRA approved. All right. And the last myth that I want to address, a big drum roll or whatever, right? The last myth that I want to address is there are people out there who say that gold and silver are irrelevant, or gold and silver are they don't pay off. And one such person is Dave Ramsey. In fact, he is quoted. So this is not something that I'm just making up, but he is quoted as saying, I'd stop investing in gold and silver completely. He says, I don't put money in precious metals at all because they have a lousy long-term track record. Okay. So this goes back to, we don't invest in gold and silver simply for a long-term track record. Okay. And gold and silver isn't something that you just, that's all you invest in, right? You have to have some diversity. So there's still value in investing in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and ETFs. There's value in investing in gold and silver. There's in other precious metals. There's value in investing in crypto and art and all of these various different things in businesses. There's value in the diversity, right? Because they each serve a different purpose, right? And so when we say over the long term, sure, it looks like the stock market, it not only looks like it, right? But the stock market beats out gold when we talk gold and silver, when we talk about long-term performance. But when we invest in gold and silver, we're not investing because of long-term, performance rates. That's not what why we're investing in gold and silver. Here's the reason, as kingdom citizens, why we're investing in gold and silver. I'm going to give you a few reasons and why I continuously recommend that everyone should have it as a part of their portfolio. Okay. Number one, Genesis 2:12 says gold is good. Here's what I want you all to know. Gold and silver, other precious metals, are God's money. Anything else is man-made. Okay? Fiat currency that we have is man-made and it does not last. And you can see this if you've watched the progression of what we call money over the years, right? Gold and silver in Bible days, and then it became these notes and certificates, and now this fiat currency that we have. And the other thing is too, is that you have to understand the difference between currency and money. The truth of the matter is that money is gold and silver. Currency is these paper notes that we are accustomed to. Okay? Money holds its value. It doesn't go anywhere. Gold and silver, God's money, ain't going nowhere. Okay? It ain't going nowhere. When have you known anything that God has made that does not last throughout eternity? I'm waiting. Okay? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. Is there anything that God has created that does not last? Okay? Let me know. All right? But what man creates, okay, doesn't last. Today it's this, tomorrow it's something else. Okay, we've got fiat currency right now. We've been talking about, if you've been following my podcast, we've been talking about how we're moving into this new era, okay, of digital coins, right? And it's not that the digital coins are new, right? We've been hearing about Bitcoin and all this stuff for some years now. But what's happening is this major shift to those things. You're going to see much less of the paper fiat currency. Okay. So Genesis 2:12, go read it for yourself. It says gold is good. God declares that gold is good because he created it, right? That creation he created first day, said it was good. Created whatever he created on the second day, it was good. Created whatever he created on the third day, it was good. He uses that, and this is good one more time, which was in Genesis chapter 2, verse 12, when he created gold. Okay. So paper money will be consumed because anything that we create as man will be consumed. It's not forever. Okay. Our paper money is also made from like a mixture of paper and cloth. Okay. Light a fire to it, it's gone, which brings me to my next point. Okay. Gold is tested by fire. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12. Gold is tested by fire. It tells us, the scripture tells us that the foundation and the quality of our lives will be tested by fire, right? Notice that gold and silver are simply, when they're tested by fire, when they're put in the fire, what happens to gold and silver? They become even more pure. They become more pure by the fire, okay? But if you put wood, hay, paper, any of that other stuff, what happens to it? It's consumed, okay? There is a loss. Need I say more? Okay. Do I have to say anything else? Gold and silver tested by the fire. When it's put in the fire, it becomes even more pure. It becomes even more valuable. Okay. Put your dollar in a fire. That's right. Refined, Shay. Put your dollar in a fire. It does not become more pure. It disappears. It's gone. Okay. That's what happens to that. All right. Let me keep moving. Gold is a sign of blessing. It's a sign of power. Throughout history, and the ruling class is always sought to own gold and silver. And even today, wealthy people who know anything seek to own gold and silver. Okay. Not because, oh, we're looking for, long-term track record. No, because it holds its value. It holds its value. Okay. They're precious. They can't be counterfeited. Okay. And lastly, gold and silver belong to God, which is what I've been saying. It really just wraps it up. Gold and silver belong to God. Okay. Haggai chapter 2, verse 8 tells us that the silver is mine and the gold is mine, saith the Lord. Okay. He didn't say anything about the notes, any fiat, nothing like that. He said the gold and silver is mine. Okay. And so if he says it's good, he says it's his, can't be counterfeited, then to me, right, it's tested by the fire, right? Then to me, it should be something that we have in our portfolios at all times. And that there, people, is my case for gold and silver. Okay. So I hope that this has been helpful for you today. And I'm going to share there are a couple of things. Actually, you're welcome, Jay. Yes, or thank you rather. The Passion, Peace, and Purpose Summit is going on right now. Okay. I speak later this evening. I think it's around the 6 o'clock hour or something like that when I speak, but Passion, Purpose, and Peace Summit.com. You can catch it live. It doesn't cost anything. It's been going on all day today. It'll be going on all day tomorrow as well. And then in May, the women's conference, there's a women's conference, okay? Women for Global Impact, Purpose, Position, and Presence in the Marketplace. That conference is happening. It's in North Carolina. It's actually physical. It's not virtual like the one going on today and tomorrow. It is physical. You can purchase tickets, but that is going on. I think I should have the link in the, or I'll drop the link in the comments. But it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We've got powerful speakers. I'm humbled to be one of the speakers. I'm humbled to be the closing speaker. So you already know, right? Asking God to help me bring it, right? So, but it's going to be amazing, right? Purpose, position, and presence in the marketplace, because marketplace is ministry as well. So again, hope that this has been helpful to you all. I got to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Oh yeah, definitely go back and grab those scriptures. All right, see you guys next time. Peace.